My dad told me that my brother's 25 friends were spending Christmas at our house. He said it with a smirk, like he was placing a lunch order. My brother stood behind him, arms crossed, nodding. Then my brother dropped the real reason. His wealthy fiancée, Jessica, was bringing her elite parents. My dad turned to me. His voice dropped into that cold, commanding tone. He ordered me to stay hidden in the kitchen the entire night. He pointed right at my apron and said my clothes smelled like grease, and my presence would just embarrass my brother in front of his new high-class in-laws. I was expected to cook a massive feast for 25 people, serve it like a ghost, and disappear into the background to protect my brother's fake empire. My name is Clara. I am 32 years old, and I own a highly successful corporate catering company. I stared at my father. The man who had just told me I was too dirty to be seen in my own childhood home stood there waiting for me to bow my head. I smiled a tight, cold smile and told him I would take care of it. I walked straight into the kitchen, but I bypassed the cutting boards. I grabbed a stack of heavy-duty moving boxes and started packing. I packed the commercial-grade stand mixers. I boxed up the silver chafing dishes, the crystal serving platters, and the imported roasting pans. Every single item in that kitchen belonged to my business. Brandt Catering, I had stored my overflow equipment at the house because my parents had a massive, unused secondary pantry. As I boxed up the last of the expensive silverware, my father walked past the doorway. He complained about the clattering noise and told me to hurry up and start the turkey. I kept my head down and continued taping the boxes shut. 3 years ago, that same man had sobbed on the phone to me. This house had been exactly 60 days away from a brutal bank foreclosure. I stepped in and paid $45,000 to save his roof. But I am a businesswoman. I made him sign a legally binding promissory note secured against the property. He signed it without reading, assuming his daughter would never dare collect. He treated me like the hired help, completely forgetting the help legally owned the roof over his head. Aunt Beatrice walked through the back door just as I was loading the final crate onto my dolly. Beatrice was my father's older sister, and the only person in this family who saw through the generational rot. She took one look at the empty shelves, looked at my packed dolly, and gave a slow, silent nod of absolute approval. She poured herself a cup of coffee and sat at the small breakfast table. Getting comfortable for the show, I loaded the last box into my company transit van. Pulling out my phone, I canceled the massive wholesale food order I had placed for the holidays. Then I drafted a very specific email. I scheduled it to send automatically at exactly noon the following day. By the time the sun rose on Christmas morning, I was sitting on a sun-drenched balcony in Cabo, Mexico, holding a lime margarita and listening to the ocean crash against the rocks. Back in Ohio, my father and brother woke up to an empty echo chamber. No smell of roasting turkey, no simmering gravies, just bare countertops and a terrifying silence. At exactly noon, the doorbell rang. Jessica and her wealthy, elite parents stood on the porch, expecting a 5-star catered holiday feast. Simultaneously, my scheduled email hit my brother's inbox. I had made sure to copy Jessica's father on the message, since my brother had proudly listed him as his financial guarantor on a fake intake form to look important. The email contained a formal $5,000 invoice for the premium holiday catering package. Below the total, I typed a simple note. It stated that because payment was not rendered by the client, all services were effectively canceled, and the contract was void. The lie shattered instantly. Jessica's father demanded an explanation. My brother stammered, his fake empire crumbling over the span of 3 minutes. Jessica's family turned around and walked right back to their luxury vehicle. That evening, my phone buzzed on the balcony. It was a text from Jessica. She thanked me for the invoice. She said her father had immediately run a background check on my brother's finances on the drive home. The engagement was permanently off. A moment later, I got an alert from my business bank account. Jessica had wired the full $5,000 to pay the invoice. She added a memo saying it was a thank you gift for saving her from a fraud. I sipped my margarita. I got paid, and my brother lost his golden ticket. My brother did not learn his lesson. Narcissists rarely do. Instead of apologizing, he went into a desperate, feral panic. He texted me a massive wall of rage. He said Jessica's father was threatening to pull a major investment deal from his firm unless my brother could prove my catering business was a fraudulent scam. He told me I had ruined his life, and now he was going to destroy my business. He launched a vicious, coordinated smear campaign within 48 hours. My catering company's pages were flooded with one-star reviews. Fake accounts claimed they had contracted severe food poisoning from my events. He even filed 2 completely fraudulent complaints with the state health department, claiming my kitchens were infested. He thought he was untouchable. He worked as a portfolio manager at a high-end corporate investment firm in the city. He wore tailored suits and looked down on blue-collar labor like mine. He assumed a caterer would just roll over and cry when faced with a bureaucratic nightmare. The health department notices arrived in my inbox, threatening immediate suspension of my operating licenses pending an investigation. My livelihood was genuinely on the line. The business I had spent 10 years building from the ground up was bleeding credibility by the hour. My event coordinators were fielding panic calls from spring brides. They wanted to cancel their deposits. The trap was set, and my brother thought he had me cornered. He thought I would beg for mercy to save my reputation. He forgot one crucial detail. I survive in an industry with razor-thin margins and ruthless competition. I do not panic. I audit. I called my contracted technology specialist. I instructed him to pull the raw back-end data from the health department complaint forms and the review site. My brother was arrogant, but he was also incredibly careless. He made the ultimate fatal mistake of the entitled office worker. He had submitted the fraudulent legal complaints using his company laptop while connected to his firm's internal corporate network. His browser's autofill feature had attached his recovery email to every single fake profile. Every network address traced directly back to the secure servers at Sterling Investments. I forwarded the data packet to my corporate attorney. We did not send my brother a warning. My lawyer bypassed him completely and dropped a devastating cease and desist order directly onto the desk of the head of human resources at Sterling Investments. The legal notice cited the use of corporate infrastructure to conduct targeted cyber harassment and outlined the firm's joint liability in the impending defamation lawsuit. Sterling Investments did not hesitate. Corporate risk management acts swiftly. Security guards marched into my brother's office, handed him a cardboard box, and escorted him out of the glass building in front of his entire department. He was fired on the spot for gross misconduct. My phone rang an hour later. It was my father. He was screaming so loudly the speaker on my phone distorted his voice. He demanded I drop the charges immediately and save his golden son. He threatened to disown me. He did not know Aunt Beatrice was sitting right there in his living room, drinking tea. Beatrice stood up. She pulled a folded piece of paper from her purse. It was the original $45,000 promissory note. She dropped it on the coffee table right in front of him. She coldly dissected his hypocrisy, reminding him that the daughter he treated like a peasant was the only reason he was not sleeping in a motel. I spoke clearly into the phone. I told him he always preached that family comes first. So I was treating him exactly like family. But since he treated me like a bank, I was acting like one. I issued my formal 30-day notice of default on the property lien. I told him to pay the $45,000, or I was foreclosing on his house. Then I hung up. The dust settled rapidly. My brother was completely blacklisted in the local finance sector. Human resources departments talk, and a gross misconduct termination for cyber harassment is a permanent stain. He was forced to take a minimum wage retail job selling cell phone accessories at the local mall. My father did not have $45,000 in cash. He was forced into a predatory reverse mortgage, bleeding out a massive chunk of his retirement fund just to satisfy the lien and avoid immediate eviction. On a crisp Tuesday morning, I signed for an overnight delivery package. It contained the notarized settlement agreement. The funds had cleared the escrow account. Aunt Beatrice came over that afternoon. She brought a homemade pecan pie. We sat at my kitchen island, eating in comfortable silence. It was the only family tie that survived the inferno, and it was the only one worth keeping. I set the legal documents on the marble counter. I made a fresh cup of coffee. I looked out the window at my quiet neighborhood. There were no grand celebrations. There were no explosive parties. There was just a profound, untouchable peace. I was finally free from the crushing weight of toxic obligations. When you grow up as the reliable daughter in a household that worships the sun, you learn to exist as infrastructure. You become the foundation everyone walks on. The plumbing no one notices until it breaks. The electricity that keeps the lights on. They do not exploit you because they are evil masterminds scheming in the dark. They exploit you because it is remarkably convenient. Society has conditioned women, and specifically the reliable children, to bear the heavy, invisible mental load in total silence. We are taught that family duty means setting ourselves on fire to keep everyone else warm. I spent 32 years trying to cook the perfect meal, organize the perfect event, and pay the right bills to win the love of a father who only saw me as a household appliance. The moment I stopped trying to earn a love that did not exist, I became entirely free. If you are exhausted, if you are drained, I want to share the 3 rules I learned from the ashes of my family tree. Rule number 1, boundaries without consequences are just polite suggestions. You can say the word no 1,000 times. You can cry, you can argue, and you can plead for respect. But if you catch them every single time they fall, they will never respect your boundaries. A boundary only becomes real when the person crossing it feels the pain of the impact. You have to step back. You have to let them hit the concrete. My father thought my money was a gift because I never enforced the paperwork. My brother thought my labor was free because I always served the food. The moment the consequences arrived in the form of a corporate firing and a property default, the illusion evaporated. Rule number 2, the golden child is usually a hostage to their own fragile ego. My parents gave my brother everything. They protected him from failure, insulated him from hard work, and demanded the rest of the world cater to his delusions. By giving him everything, they deprived him of the ability to build anything real. He was entirely dependent on lies to maintain his status. When you deprive someone of accountability, you are not loving them. You are crippling them. My brother's empire collapsed the second it met the real world because it was built on my invisible labor. He was completely unequipped to survive his own arrogance. Rule number 3, your peace is worth infinitely more than their approval. We stay in toxic family dynamics because we are addicted to the hope of a breakthrough. We think if we just sacrifice a little more, they will finally see our value. They will finally say thank you. They will not. Your dignity is not currency. You cannot use it to buy their love. The people who truly value you will never ask you to destroy yourself to make their lives easier. Aunt Beatrice saw my worth without requiring me to cater a feast. Jessica saw my worth and paid me fairly for my time. The family you choose will always outshine the family you were assigned. There will be a moment of terrifying guilt when you finally walk away. The conditioning runs deep. They will call you selfish. They will call you cold. Let them spin their narratives and paint you as the villain. A villain who sleeps soundly in a peaceful house is better than a martyr crying in a crowded kitchen. Are you the backbone of a family that treats you like a footstool? Do you carry the financial, emotional, or physical weight of people who refuse to carry themselves? What would happen if you just stopped? What would happen if you packed up your energy and walked out the door? Drop a comment below if you have ever had to walk away to save your president. Own life. Share this with the eldest daughter, the reliable friend, or the silent savior in your life who desperately needs permission to finally put themselves first. Subscribe for more stories. And remember, blood does not make you family. Loyalty, respect, and reciprocity make you family. Never let anyone convince you otherwise. I know exactly what you are screaming at the screen right now. You are sitting there yelling, why on earth did she wait so long to collect that debt? Why did she keep packing up her catering equipment and showing up to cook for people who treated her like an unpaid servant? It is easy to judge from the outside. But let us break down the real psychology of toxic family dynamic. Clara was not naive, and she certainly was not stupid. She was trapped in what behavioral experts call the slot machine effect, known formally as intermittent reinforcement. When an entitled parent or an arrogant sibling treats you terribly 99% of the time, but occasionally drops one single crumb of validation, a tiny nod of approval, or a brief moment of inclusion, your brain lights up like you just hit the jackpot. You keep pulling the lever, you keep putting in your money, your time, and your invisible labor, waiting for that next rare payout of love. Clara was addicted to the hope that her family would finally see her worth. But when that illusion finally shattered, Clara did not just get emotional, she got strategic. Let us look at the street-smart financial self-defense she used to dismantle their fake empire. First, look at building the case. When Clara bailed her father out of foreclosure 3 years prior, she did not just hand over a $45,000 check on a tearful handshake. She forced him to sign a legally binding promissory note secured against the property. This is a crucial lesson. Never fund a toxic relative's emergency without a contract. Paperwork is your absolute best armor against selective amnesia. Second, she used the audit strategy. When her brother panicked and tried to destroy her catering business with fake one-star reviews, Clara did not waste time in a screaming match over text messages. She audited the situation. Narcissists hate details, and they are incredibly sloppy because they believe the rules do not apply to them. By tracing the digital footprints back to his corporate network, she did not just expose a petty lie, she triggered a massive corporate liability protocol. She let his own employer swing the hammer. Finally, she executed the buyout. By issuing the 30-day notice of default, she stopped trying to negotiate with entitlement and simply foreclosed on it. She forced her father into a reverse mortgage, extracting her $45,000 and permanently severing her financial ties. She bought back her freedom. Here is the ultimate verdict. Toxic people view your boundaries as a challenge and your generosity as an infinite resource. The second you stop funding their lifestyle or buffering their consequences, they will paint you as the villain. Let them. A villain with a secure bank account and a quiet, peaceful home is winning the game. Your dignity is not a currency you use to buy a seat at a table where you are not respected. Have you ever had to enforce a harsh financial boundary with a family member? Or walk away completely to protect your sanity? I want to read about your survival tactics. Drop your story in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button for more street smart life strategies. And remember, protect your peace. And always protect your assets.